the nucleus of cephalosporins actually contains a 7-amino cephalosporinic acid membrane. Acid resembles the 6-amino penicillin acid, the nucleus of penicillin. The cephalosporin ring consists of a beta-lactam ring, dihydrothiazine ring with a possible side chain attachment with R1 and R2. Okay, so these are there with all these things. So if you see that, so it is having a 7-amino cephalosporinic acid resembling the 6-amino penicillin acid, the nucleus of penicillin, and it is the cephalosporin ring consists of beta-lactam ring and dihydrothiazine ring with a possible side chain of R1 and R2. So R1 and R2. Okay. So this is the beta-lactam ring, okay, and the dihydrothiazide ring, okay. So this is the dihydrothiazide ring, okay. So this is the chemical structure of the thing, and the main mechanism is, you see, the main mechanism will be the main mechanism of the cephalosporins will be is similar to that of penicillins and other beta-lactam antibiotics. Okay, and we have 5 generations of cephalosporins. So cephalosporins mainly inhibit the bacterial cell wall synthesis. Okay, mainly inhibit the cell wall synthesis, which is similar to penicillins, and this is brought about by inhibition of the transpeptidase enzyme that facilitates for the formation of the peptoglycan matrix of the cell wall, resulting in breakdown of the bacterial cell wall. So this is mainly inhibiting the bacterial cell wall synthesis. Okay, cephalosporins are bactericidal, and they are effective against rapidly multiplying bacteria. Okay, they are so cephalosporins are classified in 5 generations based on their antimicrobial activity. So we have totally 1st generation, 2nd generation, 3rd generation, 4th generation, and 5th generation of cephalosporins. Okay. So the 1st generation cephalosporins, so we have drugs like cefadroxil, cephalaxin, cephalozone, cephalothin, cephedrine, cefapirin, and cefacloridine. Okay, so these are the 1st generation cephalosporins, and they are mainly classified, or they are into generations mainly by the antimicrobial activity. So if you see, the 1st generation are active against gram-positive organisms such as Staphylococcus, Streptococci, Pneumococci, Protease, and Pneumococci. Okay, so they have moderate activity against gram-negative like E. coli, Klebsiella, and they do not have any activity against Flagella, Enterococci, methicillin-resistant Staphylococci, Pseudomonas acinetobacter, and Enterobacter, and indole positive protease Serrata. So all these organisms, they do not have actions on. So you have to, the MCQ can be asked for MRSA whether 1st generation cephalosporins will be active. So we have to keep in mind that, especially for methicillin-resistant Staphylococci, Pseudomonas, Acinetobacter, Enterobacter, this is not, the 1st generation does not act on this. So if you see, they are very specific with gram-positive and few gram-negative. Okay, so this is called as first generation cephalosporins, and this usually the cephalazosin, okay, is the only drug which is available parentally. Yes, cephalazosin, which is available as parenteral. Okay, which is available as parenteral. Remaining all are available as thing. And cephalazosin is the only parenteral administration, first generation cephalosporins. So it can be given intramuscularly or intravenous at a dosage of 1 gram. Okay, so cephalosporin 85% is bound to the plasma protein. So the first generation are absorbed from the GIT to a variable extent, and the plasma level ranges from 15 to 18 micrograms per ml. So they are not metabolized after rapid absorption from the GIT tract. So they are excreted unchanged in the urine and can be given both orally and parentally. Okay, so the first generation cephalosporins. When it comes to the second generation cephalosporins, these include cefamandolin, cefotoxin, cefotetin, cefuroxime, cefonicid, cefaclor, cefprozil. Okay, so the second generation cephalosporins have a great gram-negative spectrum while remaining some activity against gram-positive cocci, and are active against Enterobacteria species, indole positive protease species, and Klebsiella. So they are more resistant to beta-lactam except the drug called cefaclor. So the remaining drugs are, so the other members of this group include cefototin, and cefametazole, which shows activity against anaerobic organisms like Fragilis, and cefuroxime are active against H. influenza, E. coli, and Miracle. So the organisms are important for the generation of cephalosporins. And if you see the kinetics of second generation, they are available as oral preparations and parenteral, and dosage of 1 gram can be produce about the plasma peak level of 22 micrograms per ml. Okay, so cefuroxime is the only second generation cephalosporin which penetrates into the central that penetrate into the CSF, that crosses the blood-brain barrier. Then we have the third generation cephalosporins, which includes moxolactam, cefotaxime, ceftriaxone, 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 and cefeprazone. Okay, so they are administered intramuscularly or intravenously, and this group also has oral. They're all beta-lactamase resistance. Apart from this, the activity against many gram-positive organisms. This generation of cephalosporin has a broad spectrum activity with further increase in the activity against gram-negative organisms, including penicillinase producing strains and Enterobacteria species. So ceftriaxone is less active against Pseudomonas, but more active against Fragilis. So cefoperazone and ceftriaxone show activity against Aeruginosa. So if you see the third generation has a broader spectrum of activity compared to the first and second generation cephalosporins. And the fourth generation cephalosporins, we have cepipium and cepiperonone and cefazolin. So belongs to the this belongs to the fourth generation and are more resistant to the hydrolysis of beta-lactamase than the third generation cephalosporin. So cephalosporin is stable against plasmid encoded beta-lactamase and is relatively resistant to the inducible chromosome encoded beta-lactamase. So it penetrates rapidly into the gram-negative bacteria and targets multiple essential protein-bound plasmas. Okay, these properties make it useful in treating infections by enterobacteriaceae that are resistant to other cephalosporins. So these are effective against many gram-positive organisms and less active against P. aeruginosus than ceftazidime. And the fifth generation cephalosporins, we have ceftaroline and ceftobiprole, which develop and are found to be effective against streptococci, including methicillin species, and penicillin sensitive, penicillin resistant, multi-drug resistant organisms. So like Haemophilus, influenza, Moraxella, Catalyst, all these have shown to have synergistic activity against gram-negative organisms in combination with aminoglycoside. So this can be combined with aminoglycoside. Like other beta-lactam, ceftriaxone, that is the fifth generation, exert rapid bactericidal action by binding to the key protein-bound and this cephalosporins and beta-lactams, both drugs exhibit enhanced binding affinity. So the advantage within the new generation of cephalosporin is that the agent of this class have low potential for the development of resistance and favorable safety, tolerability, and long instance for Clostridium difficile. So these are well tolerated, and especially the Clostridium associated diarrhea. So these are them. And if you see the clinical uses of this cephalosporins, the first, second generation, fourth, and fifth generation. So we are seeing the various pharmacokinetic parameters. All of them are used available as oral and parenteral. Okay, we'll just see the uses now of the first generation cephalosporins. The first generation cephalosporins, actually, they are mainly used to treat bacterial endocarditis, bone and joint infections, otitis media, pneumonia and septicemia, skin, soft and tissue infections, including burn wound infections, urinary tract infections caused by susceptible microbials. They are not effective in treating meningitis. Okay, so that we have to keep in mind. Similarly, they cannot be used for empirical therapy for nosocomial infections, as they provide inconsistent coverage to the gram-negative organism. So the first generation cephalosporin is preferred agent in the use of perioperative prophylaxis because of its longer half-life. So MCQ asks the which drug is used as prophylaxis. First generation drug used as prophylaxis in is cefalozin. Okay, that is the only drug used as prophylaxis in surgery. Okay, so we cannot use them in meningitis. So that is the point we have to remember. And the second generation cephalosporins, you see the second generation cephalosporins, they are mainly used in the treatment of bone and joint infections, pneumonia, septicemia, skin and soft tissue infections, including burn wounds infections and urinary tract infections. The cefuroxime has been used in treatment of meningitis caused by pneumonial, H influenza, and meningitis. The third generation cephalosporins have better penetration into the CSF. So the cefuroxime acetyl and oral prodrug of cefuroxime is used to treat mild to moderate bronchitis, otitis media, Lyme diseases, pharyngitis, tonsillitis, sinusitis. So all these the second generation cephalosporins they are useful in mixed anaerobic infections, including aspiration pneumonia, diabetic foot, intra-abdominal infections, in pelvic infections. They are also used as prophylaxis to help prevent of perioperative infections that may result in colorectal surgery. So such we can use second generation cephalosporins. And the third generation cephalosporins, they are mainly used for serious gram-negative bacterial infection. Sorry. Gram-negative bacterial infections, including bone and joint infections, female pelvic infections, intra-abdominal infections, pneumonia, septicemia, skin and soft tissue infections, including burn infections and complicated urinary tract infections caused by susceptible organisms. So the third generation cephalosporins also are used in because they are covering a wide range of organisms, and they are used orally and parenterally. You see the fourth generation cephalosporins, we can use them in mainly in lower respiratory infections, like pneumonia, then complicated and uncomplicated urinary tract infections, skin and soft tissue infections, including cellulitis, abscess, post-operative wound infections, meningitis, and gonorrhea. And the fifth generation cephalosporins, we can use them in skin and structure infections, skin structured infections, including diabetic foot and commonly acquired pneumonia. Community acquired pneumonia, then methicillin resistant staphylococci infections such as endocarditis, bone and joint infections. So if you see the other beta lactam antibiotics, one is the imipenem and the other is the meropenem. So imipenem is derived from a compound by the Streptomycin catalae. So the compound Theniamycin is unstable and is converted into imipenem. So the stable derivative imipenem is available in combinations with clistatin, a drug that inhibits the degradable imipenem by renal dipeptidase. Okay, so the antimicrobial spectrum of this imipenem is effective against a wide range of microorganisms, including pneumonia, influenza, pyogenes, E. coli, Klebsiella, aeruginosis, aureus, monocytogenes, Actobacteria, Streptococcus species. So if you see the uses of the imipenem is indicated in the treatment of mild to moderate infections. It indicates in severe or life-threatening infections such as bacterial endocarditis. Okay. And the indication of will include lower respiratory tract infection, intra-abdominal infections, including acute gangrenous or perforated appendicitis or peritonitis, cellulitis, postpartum endomyometritis, and urinary tract infections. So imipenem and celastin combined is useful for the treatment of infections caused by cephalosporin resistant nosocomial infections such as Cryptobacteria frenidae and Enterobacteria species. So they are used in mainly cephalosporin resistant nosocomial infections. And if you see the Monobactam, this is the azithromycin structure similar to that of the ceftazidime. This is effective in gram-negative organisms and is similar to that of the third generation cephalosporins. So it does not have activity against gram-positive bacteria and anaerobes. Stable to many beta-lactamase. It penetrates the cerebrospinal fluid, and it is given intravenously to treat infections caused by gram-negative organisms. And the beta-lactamase inhibitors like clavinic acid, sulbactam, avibactam, tazobactam. So clavinic acid is given in combination with amoxicillin to enhance antimicrobial activity of amoxicillin and given orally. Sulbactam is combined with ampicillin for similar purpose and given IV. Tazobactam is given in a combination with piperacillin and is given parentally for moderate to severe pseudomonal infection. Avibactam is combined with ceftazidime. And vancomycin is a high molecular weight glycopeptide antibiotic obtained from Streptomyces orientaceus and primarily active against Streptococcus aureus and Staphylococcus epidermidis. So bactericidal agents inhibit cell wall synthesis. It is given by IV route, and it is given for to treat serious infections, severe infections caused by susceptible strains by methicillin-resistant staphylococci, causing endocarditis. Okay, so enterococcal endocarditis in combination with gentamicin, we can use it. And pneumococcal in meningitis in combination with cefotaxime, ceftriaxone, or rifampicin. So vancomycin we can use in clinical conditions which like enterococcal endocarditis, pneumococcal meningitis, and in enterococcal endocarditis it is combined with gentamicin, and in pneumococcal meningitis it is combined with ceftriaxone or rifampicin. And cycloserine is an antibiotic produced by Streptomycin orchidaceae, exclusively indicated to treat tuberculosis caused by Mycobacterium tuberculosis, resistant to the first-line drug, and causes serious dose-related central nervous toxicity. Okay. And anti-pseudomodal antibiotics, if you see, are aminoglycoside, which is like gentamicin, tobramycin, amikacin, penicillin, piperacin, and tazobactam, carbapenems, meropenem, doropinum, monobactam, azithromycin, fluoroquinolone, ciprofloxacin, torvafloxacin, cephalosporins, cefepime, cefotabime, avibactam, and cefetolozone. Okay, tazobactam. So these are the drugs which are used as anti-pseudomonic antibiotics. So when they ask about a question regarding anti-pseudomonal antibiotics, you have to mention all these antibiotics which and write about their mechanism. So at times they ask us an essay, anti-pseudomonal antibiotics. So it is not a single group of antibiotics, but a multiple group of antibiotics which are used over here. Okay. So cephalosporins, similar to, it is a beta-lactam antibiotic, similar to penicillin. Okay. And so we have 5 generation of antibiotics, cephalosporins. It is obtained from Cephalosporum acrominium. Later, semisynthetic cephalosporins were developed. So cephalosporin has a beta-lactam antibiotic, are beta-lactam antibiotics with 7 aminocephalosporinic acid nucleus. So the mechanism of action and the development of resistance are similar to that of penicillins. So like penicillins, cephalosporins also inhibit the synthesis of bacterial cell wall and produce bactericidal effect. Cephalosporins have been divided into five generations. We have seen the first generation, second generation, third generation, and fourth generation and fifth generation. Cephalosporins are administered either orally or parenterally. These drugs are externally excreted mainly unchanged through the kidney, either through glomerular filtration or tubular secretion. Cephalosporins are metabolized in the body before they are excreted. The cefotaxime is deacetylated in the body before it's excreted. Cefoperazone is mainly excreted through the bile. Like penicillins, the active tubular secretion of cephalosporin is blocked by probenecid, resulting in high blood levels and longer duration of action. So the adverse effects of cephalosporin are mainly hypersensitivity, similar like penicillins. So you have to do a skin a skin test before administering the cephalosporin. It has gastrointestinal disturbances, mainly diarrhea, vomiting, and anorexia, and pain at the site of IM injection. And intravenous causes thrombophlebitis on prolonged use. Nephrotoxicity is also seen particularly with cephalosporins because it has been withdrawn. Co-administration of cephalosporins and gentamicin increase the risk of nephrotoxicity. Intolerance to alcohol, disulfiram-like reaction occurs, has been reported with cefotetin and cefoperazone. Severe bleeding can occur either due to hypothrombonemia, which is responding to vitamin K therapy, and thrombocytopenia and platelet dysfunction. So this cephalosporins are been seen there, and mainly we are seeing the antimicrobial spectrum, which varies from the first, second, third, and fourth and fifth generation. So the antibacterial spectrum are against, actually we have gram positive is more in the first generation, comparatively less in the second, comparatively less in the third generation, very less in the fourth, and very less in the fifth. And against gram negative, less in the first generation, more in the second, more in the third, fourth, and fifth generation. Anaerobes have effective against in the first generation, and here effective in the second, more effective in the third and fourth, fifth generation. And against Pseudomonas, not effective in the first generation, not effective in the second generation, but effective in the third and fourth, fifth generation. Against when it is Salmonella, it's not effective in the first generation, not effective in the second generation, but effective in the third generation. So hence, this one of the drug of choice for typhoid is ceftriaxone. Okay, so that is the thing. And if you see the beta-lactam enzyme, actually the first generation highly susceptible to Staphylococcus beta-lactamase. Okay, so these drugs are very based on the antimicrobial spectrum. We can see that the coverage in the clinical use. And we are seeing the carbapenems, which are so actually the imipenem, the one of the example of the carbapenems, is a semi-synthetic beta-lactam antibiotic. So imipenem, like other beta-lactam antibiotic, acts by inhibiting the bacteria cell wall synthesis and produces bactericidal activity. It has wide spectrum antibacterial activity against gram-positive organisms like streptococci, enterococci, listeria, Clostridium difficile, gram-negative organisms like Aeruginosis, Enterobacteriaceae, fragilis. So it is resistant to the most beta-lactamase. So when you give intravenous injection of imipenem via the glomerulus filtration in the renal tubules, it forms a dehydropeptidase and rapid hydrolysis of the imipenem and is excreted in the urine. So if you see Celastin, which is a dehydropeptidase inhibitor in the which increases the concentration of imipenem in the urine. Hence, it is combined with imipenem. So Clostridium and imipenem. So imipenem actually inhibits the dehydropeptidase in the brush border of the renal tubule. So imipenem Clostridium combination increases the antibacterial activity and is used in mixed bacterial infections such as urinary tract, respiratory tract, intra-abdominal, gynecological, skin, soft tissue, bone, and joint infections. They exhibit cross reactivity with penicillins and cephalosporins. So the nausea, vomiting, and skin rashes are common with the side effects, and CNS toxicity is there. Okay, so we are seeing about the cephalosporins, the carbapenems like imipenem, Celastin, which are used in mixed bacterial infections. Okay, so these are the organs for the carbapenems. So, and where they are used mostly in lower tract infections, all complicated infections in the respiratory, urinary tract, abdominal. Okay, so in all mixed infections, you can use these drugs. Okay, so and if you see the monobactam, actually the monobactam, the azithromycin, which is a beta-lactam antibiotic, with only one ring in its structure, and the name monobactam refers that. So by inhibiting the bacteria cell wall synthesis, effective only against gram-negative bacteria such as Enterobacteriaceae and gonococci, H. influenza, but has no activity against gram-positive bacteria and anaerobes. So it is resistant to most of the beta-lactamase antibiotics. So it is administered only parentally. The main advantage of this acetotome lacks cross-reactivity with other beta-lactam antibiotics. So it is useful for treatment of hospital-acquired gram-negative infections, especially intra-abdominal infections and the gastrointestinal infection and urinary tract infections. Okay, so we are seeing about all these, and beta-lactam antibiotics like clavinic acid, which is given in combination. Okay, so this beta-lactam antibiotic, actually they are clavinic acid, sulbactam, tazobactam, which they are structurally resembling the beta-lactam molecule. Beta-lactamase inhibitors bind to the beta-lactamase and inactivate them. So co-administration of these drugs with beta-lactamase increases the activity of beta-lactams by preventing them from the enzymatic destruction. So clavinic acid is isolated from streptomycin clavigeris, and it is competitively and irreversibly inhibits beta-lactam and produces a wide range of gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria. So after binding to the enzyme clavinic acid itself gets inactivated. Hence, this is called a suicidal inhibitor. So commonly asked question, suicidal inhibitor. So the drug of which example for a suicidal inhibitor is nothing but clavinic acid. Why it is called a suicidal inhibitor? Mainly because after binding to the enzyme, clavinic acid itself gets inactivated. Hence, it is called suicidal inhibitor. So clavinic acid plus amoxicillin is available as oral, intramuscular, and intravenous. So mainly used in skin, soft tissues, otitis media, respiratory, urinary tract infections caused by beta-lactamase producing strains of aureus, E. coli, influenza, and gonococci. And clavinic acid plus ticagrelin available as parenteral. It's mainly used in mixed nosocomial infections due to aerobic gram-negative bacilli, aureus, and bacteroides species. Salbactam plus ampicillin. Usually, you can use salbactam plus ampicillin, which is available as oral, intramuscular, and intravenous. They are commonly used for intra-abdomen pelvic infections, that is mixed aerobic and anaerobic infections due to beta-lactam producing strains of aureus, gram-negative aerobes and anaerobes. Okay. Then the tazobactam and the piperacillin. Tazobactam and piperacillin are mainly available as IV preparations, and they are used in severe infections caused by beta-lactams producing strains like gram-negative bacilli. So all these are used in mixed infections. So the example as a suicidal inhibitor. And this vancomycin is a high molecular weight glycopeptide. Okay, a high molecular glycopeptide which is obtained from Streptomyces orientalis. Okay, and they are bactericidal agent and inhibits the cell wall synthesis. It is given by intravenous route, and for the treatment of serious and severe infections caused by susceptible strains of methicillin-resistant staphylococci, and mainly causing endocarditis. So here we have to remember that Enterococcus endocarditis, and this we use it in combination with gentamicin, and in combination with cefotaxime or rifampicin in case of pneumococcal meningitis. So this is a very commonly asked question, 2 marks question. So we have to keep remembering about this. And the cyclosporin also very commonly used actually when resistant to first line drugs in tuberculosis. So we use this cyclosporin, which is an antibiotic produced by Streptomyces orchidaceae. So it's mainly used in tuberculosis, especially Mycobacterium tuberculosis resistant to all the first line drugs. Okay, so the only problem is they may cause serious central nervous system side effects. Okay, so cyclosporin is a drug which is used for the first line drug resistance in tuberculosis. Okay, so and the last slide where we can think about anti-pseudomonal antibiotics. So against anti-pseudomonas, so what are the drugs which are used against anti-pseudomonas? antibiotics are aminoglycosides, especially gentamicin, tobramycin, and amikacin. And penicillins, we have piperacin and tazobactam. And carbapenems, we have meropenem and doropenem. And monobactam, we have azithromycin, and fluoroquinolones, we have ciprofloxacin and torvafloxacin. Cephalosporins, we have cepipenem, cefatazidime, avibactam, cephalosporin, tazobactam. Okay, so all these drugs are used as anti-pseudomonas antibiotic. So we are coming to the end of the beta-lactam antibiotics, starting from the penicillins, cephalosporins. Okay, so today we read about cephalosporins. Okay, so this cephalosporins is a derivative of, to sum up, to say the cephalosporin is a 7-amino cephalonic acid with the resemble the 6-amino penicillinase acid, the nucleus of penicillin. Okay, it consists of beta-lactam ring and dihydrothiazine ring with a possible attachment at the side chains R1 and R2. Okay, so yeah, R1 and R2, we have a beta-lactam and dihydrothiazine ring. So we have 5 generation of cephalosporins. The mechanisms mainly antibacterial actions similar to that of penicillins, inhibit the bacterial cell wall synthesis, inhibit the transpeptidase enzyme, and facilitates the formation of peptoglycan matrix of the cell membrane. They are bactericidal again and active against rapidly multiplying bacteria. And we have 5 generation. First generation, we have cephadroxil. Their activity is mostly gram positive, moderately active against E. coli, Klebsiella pneumonia protozoa, no action against other organisms. The second generation, we have antimicrobial activity, greater action against gram negative organisms with moderate activity against gram positive organisms. And they are sensitive organisms include Klebsiella, influenza, Enterobacter species, indole positive protease, Morella, Catharellus. And no activity against enterococci and aeruginosis. The third generation have extended spectrum of gram-negative organisms like gonorrhea, Enterobacteriaceae, and more actively against fragilis. Okay, they are actively against aeruginase also. And fourth generation, they are again aeruginaceae, Enterobacteriaceae, pneumonia, influenza, and gonococci, and more resistant to beta-lactamase. And the fifth generation have greater binding affinity to penicillin binding proteins, and antibacterial spectrum, they are gram positive, including methicillin resistant species, and streptococcal pneumonia, Streptococcus pyogenes, gram negative species like influenza, Morloxa, Catharellus. Okay, so they are the kinetics, they are used orally, parentally. Okay, and like penicillins, they also are used along with probenecid. And we are using in all type of infections. So mainly bone joint infections, otitis media, pneumonia, septicemia, bacteria. So this is the first generation pertained with the organism. Second generation, similarly, with mixed, we are using it for mixed aerobic and anaerobic bacterial infections, including aspiration pneumonia, diabetic foot, intra-abdominal infections, pelvic infections, and peritonitis. And the third generation, we use it for typhoid. Okay, the drug of choice for typhoid and other infections pertain to gram negative. Fourth generation, complicated and uncomplicated urinary tract infections, gonorrhea, meningitis, cellulitis, abscess, and pneumonia. Okay, so the fifth generation, we are using in acquired community acquired pneumonia, methicillin resistant staphylococcus infections, and endocarditis bone and joint infections. Okay, so we have seen the various drugs which come under the 5 generations based on the antimicrobial spectrum, and where and all we can use these cephalosporins clinically. Okay, so I think if you go through the chapter, you'll have an idea about this cephalosporins, and commonly ask questions in these beta lactam antibiotics will be they can either ask classify penicillins or cephalosporins according to the antibacterial spectrum, mention their therapeutic uses and adverse effects of the first generation, second generation, third generation, fourth or fifth generation cephalosporins. They'll ask to enumerate the beta lactam antibiotics. They'll ask to mention the therapeutic uses, adverse effects of the third generation cephalosporins, or they'll ask what is the difference between ampicillin and amoxicillin, because ampicillin and amoxicillin, what are the differences? They can ask what is the rationale behind using penicillins and probenecid. They can ask what is amoxicillin and clavinic. What is the rationale of using amoxicillin and clavinic acid? What is the rationale of using ampicillin and gentamicin? What is the rationale behind using imiprim and clistatin? Okay, commonly asked short notes are ampicillin, beta lactamase inhibitors, and then third generation cephalosporins, monobactams, fourth generation cephalosporins. Okay, so we have to see the rationale behind using why we are using what is the rationale behind using penicillins and probenecid. What is the rationale behind using amoxicillin and clavinic acid? Okay, so if you read about the rationale behind all these things, which are commonly asked questions, okay, so that you have to keep in mind before going to for writing the exams. Okay, and one more thing is suicidal inhibitor, which we read. So which is a suicidal inhibitor? Clavinic acid is a suicidal inhibitor, which is beta lactamase, which it binds irreversibly, inhibiting this enzyme beta lactamase and expressed by organisms. So it is preferred for co-administration with beta lactam antibiotic. It is 20 times more effective than salbutamol. It inhibits the extended spectrum, and it's 14 times more potent than salbactam. Okay, so these are the things which you have to keep in mind. Okay, so I think if you go through this topic, you can understand, and the commonly questions which will be asked for the exams. Okay, so read through the topic, and we'll discuss about the remaining antibiotics in the next class. Thanking you.